The first couple of questions are asking us to write an equation in slope-intercept form. And I say that I am perpendicular to another line. What does the word perpendicular mean in terms of slope? When I am writing an equation in slope-intercept form, I know that the equation must be written in y equals mx plus b, because that is slope-intercept form. If a line is perpendicular to a line, it means that it creates a 90-degree angle, but it means that the slope is opposite sign and reciprocal. So if I'm asked to find an equation of a line that is perpendicular to 4y equals 3x minus 8, that means that the first thing I need to do is look at this line and try to find the slope. Well, that line is currently not properly written in slope-intercept form to make it easy for me to see what the slope is. If I took this equation, what would I do so that I could put it in y equals mx plus b? You would divide everything by 4, everything. So your new equation would be y equals 3/4 x minus 2. That equation that they're giving me is the line that I am perpendicular to, my new line. If my new line is perpendicular to y equals 3/4 x minus 2, and I can identify that the slope of this line is 3/4, then what is the slope of the new line going to be?
4/3.
Negative 4/3.
Negative 4/3.
Okay? Slope of the new line has to be, well, this is positive, so negative, and the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. The only thing I have done is figured out what the slope of the new line is. But I'm not asked just for the slope, I'm asked for the equation. What are the two things that now I have for my new line? I have a point. How do I know? Because it tells me I passed through negative 12,7. So I know that I have a point. And I have the slope of my new line. Because my slope of my new line is negative 4/3, because the slope of the new line is perpendicular to the slope of the given line. And the slope of the given line was 3/4. If I'm asked to write an equation, and I am given a point, and I have the slope, what do I use? Point slope formula. Very good. What is point slope formula?
Y minus y equals m times x minus x.
Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I know that my m is negative 4/3. I know that my x1 is negative 12, and I know my y1 is 7. So when you go to plug those in, you're going to get y minus y1, which is 7, is equal to the m, which is negative 4/3, times x minus x1, which is negative 12. Be leery with double negatives. X minus x1 is x minus negative 12, which, exactly correct, is x plus 12. So I'm going to continue, and I get y minus 7 equals negative 4/3 times x plus 12. Is that in the form they're asking me for? What form are they asking me? Slope-intercept. So that means I need to take this and change it into y equals mx plus b. So in order to do that, I am going to rewrite it right here first. y minus 7 equals, I'm going to distribute. Negative 4/3 times x is negative 4/3 x. Negative 4/3 times 12, you guys have calculators now, but negative 4/3 times 12, 3 goes into 12 4 times, negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Now what do? Add 7, because I want it in slope-intercept. Add 7, and you get y equals negative 4/3 x minus 9. Y equals negative 4/3 x minus 9 is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to the given 4y equals 3x minus 8.
Wait, you don't want it in standard form?
No, the question says in slope-intercept form, so you leave it in slope-intercept. If it said put it in standard form, then you would put it in standard form.
Wait, I forgot.
All right, so let's look at this one. So I know I have to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So I know my equation, my answer is going to be y equals mx plus b, where the m and the b have been replaced with something. I know that I go through this point, so I know I have an x1, y1. I know I'm perpendicular to y equals 4x minus 12. That means if the slope of this guy is 4, my new slope has to be opposite of 4 is negative, and reciprocal of 4 is 1/4. So the negative 1/4 is the m in the y equals mx plus b. Just to keep that in your head.
Oh, wait, are you doing it? Are you saying the answer?
So now that I have the slope of the new line, and I have the point of the new line that goes through, I have point slope, so I use y minus y1, which is 2, is equal to, you use the m of your new equation, times x minus x1, which is 8. You don't want it in point slope form, you want it in slope intercept form. So you need to distribute, and you get y minus 2 is equal to negative 1/4 x. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 8 is 2. But I'm not done yet, because I have to add 2 to both sides. Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 4. That is the equation of the line that's perpendicular to y equals 4x minus 12 and goes through 8, 2. And just make sure you're looking. The word perpendicular means the slope of this guy, which is 4. My new slope has to be opposite, so instead of positive, it's negative, and reciprocal. Write an equation in slope-intercept form, so you know again that you have to write it in y equals mx plus b, form that of a line that passes through 6, 3. So this is my x1, y1, and is parallel. When you see the word parallel, what do you know about slopes? Equal, equal, parallel, equal, perpendicular, opposite, reciprocal. So now my job is to find the slope of the line I'm parallel to. What form is the line that I am given written in? Standard form. Does anybody remember how to get slope when it's in standard form? Shortcut?
The dividing everything.
Negative a over b.
What?
That's okay. If you don't remember, it's the opposite of a over b. So we went over, and I'm going to do a quick little review over here. We went over how when you have an equation in standard form, if you were to translate this into y equals mx plus b, everybody look. If I wanted to change this into y equals mx plus b, it's a literal equation. There's no numbers. I would minus the ax, because I want y equals. And I would get by equals negative ax plus c. Then I would divide everything by b. And then I would get my final equation of y equals negative a over b x plus c over b. This is the way that it has been discovered that there's a shortcut. Regardless of what a, b, and c are equal to, if I translate anything that's in standard form into slope-intercept form, the m is really the opposite of what a was over b. Opposite, or negative a over b. So that's the m. That's the shortcut. If it's in standard form, such as this one, a is 9, b is 3, c is 6, the slope is negative of 9 over 3, which is equal to negative 3. That's just the shortcut to find the slope of a line when it's in standard form. If you don't remember that, or if you're like, no, I just like to translate it into y equals mx plus b, that's fine. You can do that as well. To transform this equation into y equals mx plus b so that then you can actually see what the slope of that line is, you would take 9x plus 3y is equal to 6. You would be minusing the 9x, and you would get 3y equals negative 9x plus 6. Then you would be dividing everything by 3, and you would get y equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3x plus 2. This equation is the same as this one. So now I know the slope of this guy is negative 3. Notice it's the same? This that I taught you up here is just a shortcut when it's in standard form. That's it. It is simply a shortcut. Am I going to expect you to know how to get the slope in standard form by doing negative a over b? No. But I like shortcuts. I'm kind of lazy at times. And if it's easy for me to just memorize, okay, standard form slope is negative a over b, and then I don't have to do all of that work, I'm going to do that. But if you're okay with that, and you're like, I already know how to translate things into y equals mx plus b, I'm going to keep doing that, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Going back to our question. They want the equation in standard form, in slope-intercept form. They give me the point, and they tell me I'm parallel to that 9x plus 3y guy. What does that mean about my new equation slope? It's the same, because it's parallel. So the slope of the new line is also negative 3, because I'm parallel to it. And the point is 6, 3. Point, slope, use the point slope formula. Y minus y1 is equal to, the m is negative 3, times x minus x1 is 6. I have my equation. I distribute. I add 3 to both sides because I want it in y equals mx plus b. And now I have my new equation. Notice that the m of the new equation and the m of the old equation, which is 9x plus 3y equals 6, is the same. And that's because they are parallel. Similar question. They want an equation in slope-intercept again for a line that passes through 0, negative 6, so I know that's my x1 and y1, and is parallel to 3x minus 5y equals 15. You're welcome to transform it into y equals mx plus b, or remember the shortcut when it's in standard form. Let's just explain the shortcut again. It's in standard form. Oh, standard form, the slope of a line in standard form is negative of a over b. So really that's positive 3/5. Oh, I don't like using that shortcut. That's fine. To transform the equation into y equals mx plus b, just for the purpose of getting the slope, I am going to subtract 3x on both sides. I get negative 5y is equal to negative 3x plus 15. I'm going to divide everything by negative 5 to get y alone. I'm going to get y equals, oh, that's positive now. And 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. The slope is 3/5. Oh, look at that. I had gotten it with the shortcut. So the slope of this line is 3/5. What is the slope of the new line going to be? How come? Why is it also 3/5? Because it's parallel. So I know the slope of the new line is 3/5. Now I have a point and the slope. So what formula do I use? Point slope. So I would say y minus, be careful with your negatives, y minus y1, which is -6, is equal to m, which is 3/5, times x minus x1, which is 0. Don't freak out about zeros. Remember, zeros are number 2. Just work with them as normal. The double negatives become a positive. When I distribute that, I get y plus 6 is equal to 3/5 x plus 0, or minus 0. It doesn't really matter whether you write minus or positive. It's just minus 0. Now I'm going to minus 6 on both sides, and I get y equals 3/5 x minus 6. That is the equation of the new line. Determine which of the following equations are parallel or perpendicular.
Do you only have to find?
They're only asking me which of these 3 lines are parallel to each other and which are perpendicular. So the only thing I need to look at is the slope of all of their lines. I know that parallel lines have what? Have
The same rate.
same slope, same rate. Those are synonyms. Equal slope. They're exactly the same. And I know that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal. Not just reciprocal, not just opposite, but opposite and reciprocal. You have to have both. Otherwise, you are not perpendicular. So now that I have these items, now I look at my equations and I go, well, let me just figure out the slopes. There's nothing else I need to do except find the slope of each equation. Now, this is where I personally think memorizing the fact that a standard form equation, the slope is -a over b, it's going to make it so much quicker because all of those are written in standard form. If you feel like I'm not going to remember that because I don't like memorizing things and you don't understand where that -a over b comes from, then change them all into y equals mx plus b. There's nothing wrong. When in doubt, write it out. I would subtract 2x on both sides to the first one. Remember to take the sign in front, so that's -8y is equal to -2x minus 24. What would I do now? Divide everything by -8. Nice. Everything by -8. Right? And I would get y equals 2/8, which is 1/4, because it's 2 negatives. X, -24 divided by -3 is +3. The next equation, minus 4x on both sides. Y equals -4x minus 2. And the last equation, minus x on both sides. -4y is equal to -x plus 4. Divide everything by -4. And I would get y equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive 1/4. X, 4 divided by -4 is -1. Now, he has 1/4 and he has 1/4. So lines 1 and 3 are parallel because they have the same slope. Lines 1 and 2 have opposite reciprocal slopes, so they are perpendicular. And line 2 and 3 are also opposite reciprocal, so they are perpendicular. That's all they're asking for.